Braceface felt like a fever dream. It's got both that weird 2000s after-school special arts style and that inherent awkwardness that seems to come from Canadian animated shows. Its opening lasts a whole minute. Glorious. The characters all look like cardboard cutouts, move like cardboard cutouts, and talk kind of like cardboard cutouts too.
Sometimes I wonder if there's something wrong with me.
So when I heard there was an episode dealing with the sensitive topic of racism in Braceface, I had to. Can't wait. Let's watch it together. So Sharon and her best friend Maria are watching a basketball game, with the normally tomboyish and kind of stoic Maria enjoying the game a little too much. I wanted to draw attention to this guy, but what's going on with any of them? Anyway. She invites Sharon out to join her, the boy she fancies and his team at Life Cycles, the main teen hangout of the show. But Sharon has her grandfather coming over later, so she suggests Maria come over afterwards to share all the hot boy gossip. Maria finally comes over, late because the boy she scored, Cloud, has come with her.
Your friend here can sure put away the fries. I think I'm gonna get her some gift certificates at Life Cycles.
You don't have to do that.
No problem. I'm that kind of guy.
He's lovely and came over to Sharon's with Maria so that she wouldn't be walking around late at night alone.
Look at this distinguished gentleman.
Sharon's father pokes his head out to see the kids all hanging out and...
Oh, you're an Arab. You part of his harem?
Harem?
Yeah, don't know how these fellas do it. I had one wife and that kept me busy enough.
The absolute balls to drop.
Arab!
Like a year after 9/11.
It reminds me of that tragedy.
Cloud takes the jabs pretty well, though.
Well, they sent us to harem management school when we turned 21.
And when do you get your own camel?
Don't need one. My dad lets me use his.
Whilst Maria is visibly uncomfortable and heads home. The next day, Maria gives Sharon the cold shoulder because Sharon has decided that she's a filthy pock who doesn't know any better.
Now I was all worried. Cloud seemed to know Grampy was just kidding around, but did Maria?
This leads to a bit of an argument as Sharon kind of whinily defends her grandfather from Maria's accusation that he might just be racist, and it's not just a joke as Sharon thinks.
Racist?
Yeah. I wonder what he'd say if he knew the other half of me was Italian.
He loves Italians. Yesterday he was making spaghetti and singing opera.
That just means he loves
lots of spaghetti.
but not Italians.
Please, someone tell Twitter this. Please, I'm begging. After Maria testily, but all things considered patiently, explains that Grandpa Spitz's comments weren't just normal banter, Sharon is a little worried that not only might her beloved grandfather be a racist, but maybe she is too. But if she's worrying this much about it, maybe that's a point in her favor.
Ah! You act like you own the place!
Hey!
God damn, Sharon! Dion, however, tries reassuring Sharon when she explains why she was acting so weird around Cloud in the cafeteria.
First of all, you're half Jewish, half wasp. Your best friend's a Chinese-Italian mix. Brock's black, and I'm...
So gay. Homo. Queer.
Faggot! Adorable.
He has a bit of a point. I mean, it's not an indication itself that Sharon is definitely not racist at all, but you know who doesn't have racially diverse friend groups? A racist. She takes the issue home as well, and...
Like what? I never heard anything.
But he's nice most of the time, and funny, and generous. I think you're being overly sensitive.
Sharon's now both lamented that Maria is being too sensitive and been told by her brother Adam that she's too sensitive. There suddenly doesn't seem to be a right way for her to think, but she gets kind of vindicated at the bowling alley with the whole gang later. Cloud doesn't seemingly care about Maria's boundaries very much.
Oh, you know, I don't really like kissing in public.
Relax, 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 relax. Relax.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine.
I guess you could say he's just being a bit pushy, but his cousin Ali and Sharon are a bit concerned. This continues into the next day too. Maria won't hear it though.
I think maybe you don't like him because
of the 9/11 attacks. Braceface? More like bracist face.
Meanwhile, Sharon's grandfather insists that his idea that all ethnically Chinese people, including American-born ones, are inherently bad drivers because of their ties to China is basically the same as Sharon saying she doesn't want to eat marshmallows because she's a vegan. He's He's not that much of a chud.
And I let your mother marry a rock drummer. And a Jew, no less.
Oh. But kind of suddenly, like the writers remember the episode is about to end, Sharon realizes she likes Ali.
상우 형! 나 보고 왔어요! 형!
Cloud's cousin, but doesn't like Cloud, so their ethnicity isn't the common factor. And just to drive the point home, Cloud starts being a bit of a cunt.
You're starting to get lazy.
Lazy? I've run this track 11 times!
And you're getting worse.
There's a claim I get a lot on streaming, like people say, oh, you neg women all the time. It's like, not really.
Well, maybe I'm just getting tired.
You shouldn't be. You're supposed to be in good shape.
Oh, yeah.
We also see Sharon's granddad flying his little remote-controlled plane with an ethnically diverse bunch of kids. And to top it all off, he agrees maybe Sharon's veganism is okay after all. And that's it, that's our episode. This episode definitely made the most of its 2000s Canadian animation awkwardness, but in a way that kind of worked for the subject matter. But it did feel like it brought up a lot of different points on this topic without taking enough time to wrap them up, which you can't really do in 22 minutes anyway, so maybe they should have pared this down a bit. Think about it, this episode brought up whether someone being of a different era is an excuse or a justification for prejudice, whether racist jokes should be taken on the chin or not. I want to be ninja! How you can tell, if you can at all, whether you're prejudiced, finding yourself defending the wrong side of history, the confusion that comes with someone potentially being prejudiced or whatever, but being nice most of the time, how to be a good white ally.
Ally Zoe.
I want you to thank this black king for letting you kneel before him.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
That's a lot. And it all just kind of stopped once each of these questions had been raised. As soon as Cloud proved beyond all doubt that he was a jerk and Sharon realized she probably wasn't racist, the whole thing sort of ended. But I think there was one focal question in this episode, something connecting all these disparate little topics that get brought up by different characters. What is casual racism? And I commend Braceface for trying to tackle that. After all, most Western teens don't face off against overzealous anti-riot forces every day, or face outright abuse from every corner of the community every day. When I say racism, I'm not talking about all jokes that mention race either, which of course you're free to individually like or not like, regardless of their intent or contents. What I mean is the comments that betray a genuinely racist outlook, whether barbed or not. Most racism we encounter, however frequently or infrequently that might be for you, isn't driven by all that much forethought, if any. Grandpa Spitz initially comes across like he lacks the social skills to grasp at this.
Well, everyone knows the Chinese are such bad drivers.
This isn't normal small talk, and you could be forgiven for maybe thinking he's just a bit inept. But then he confirms later that he really means it.
No, it's a fact. The driving laws are different over there. When they come here, they're not used to our rules, which makes them bad drivers.
Oh yeah? What about when they're born here? What about when they're born here? What about—
They probably learn from their fathers, which still makes them bad drivers.
But just because someone doesn't know better when being really awkward or casually insulting about race or anything else, which is the best case scenario, worst case is they're doing it to communicate that they think less of you for your race, that doesn't mean they shouldn't know better. It's a super short scene, but Sharon and her mother have a good exchange about this.
He's my father, Sharon, and I love him. He's not perfect, but then no one is. And you know he'd never intentionally hurt anyone.
I don't think those are good enough reasons.
It's a good question. What's the line between a justification and an excuse when it comes to this? I don't have a catch-all answer. It feels like a case-by-case kind of judgment. On top of everything else, this episode does a good job portraying just how confusing it is for Sharon to see her grandfather in a new light.
Could Maria be right? Was my grampy racist? And if I was defending him deep down, did I have the same prejudices?
Now turn around! Put your hands behind your head!
Her brothers can't seem to square Grandpa being nice with something being wrong with his worldview either.
I think he may be a little prejudiced, but he's not racist.
Nobody wants to attribute something negative, like bigotry, to someone they love. Whether it's what the writers intended or not, the Proud Family reboot episode, where Barry defends his heritage, feels the same. He doesn't want to believe his family, his very identity, is tied up in a monstrous crime against God. Neither does Sharon, even on this much smaller scale. The sticky reality is that good people can have prejudices they don't think about. Being good doesn't mean being perfect, and that includes imperfections that aren't just, ooh, quirky. They can be uncomfortable things like tacit racism. What makes them good people despite that is handling it in the right way, whatever that might mean, when they find they genuinely hold biased views on certain groups. Grandpa Spitz doesn't really do this, and seems driven by his relationship with Sharon more than anything.
I can't believe you just said that!
But he has a little McDonald's commercial around him in the park, so maybe I'm wrong. But I think you have to be extra introspective with that at the moment, because like Maria, a lot of people are lashing out and making accusations of prejudice that don't really make sense.
But all my friends are different from each other. Yeah, but none of them are Arab, right?
Gotta catch 'em all, gotta catch 'em all. Gotta catch 'em all, gotta catch 'em all.
The argument between Maria and Sharon helps highlight another question to hold in the back of your mind though. What is being too sensitive? We're in this weird litigious culture at the moment where how you feel about something takes absolute precedence 100% always everyone else. And that's not a healthy place to be. It's also not healthy to insist you're not affected in any way by stuff that actually is affecting you. You don't have to be mortally wounded by every racist joke or comment you hear, and you don't just have to go when it's not funny to you, just so you're not accused of being too sensitive. Other people's reactions don't matter either.
Even Cloud didn't mind, and Grampy teased him more than he teased you. That doesn't mean he liked it.
If you're laughing when Grandpa asks you about your harem, you go for it, have a grand time. If you're not, you can absolutely bring it up. Don't let the political weight of racism in our discourse make you give inauthentic reactions whenever race is brought up. And this doesn't just apply to racism either. Plug in any kind of undesirable social habit or prejudice that you like. Personally speaking though, it's really, really rare that I hear a comment that's just way over the line that I feel needs to be objected to. Usually if someone says something out of line to me, something racist or sexist or whatever, it's because they're already trying to have a go at me. It's less complicated than what Braceface tries to explore. My personal go-to though, when met with a comment that's fully out of pocket, is to ignore it, or to be deliberately obtuse to derail whatever the speaker was going for, like comedy, rather than to take it to heart. But I'm also not a 14-year-old girl like Maria. Come to think of it, unlike with other unsavory experiences I've had in the years since, there's probably a reason why I still super clearly remember being about Sharon and Maria's age and having an absolutely plastered elderly guy in the street shout the gamer word at me. Or the kids in my high school who ran up to me once, slanting their eyes and their fingers and yelling ching chong, etc. at me. It's not like I'd have had a breakdown, but in hindsight, I think I'd have reacted similarly to Maria, had my best friend at the time whingily defended them instead of uttering the eloquent condemnation she did, which I think was ugly bitches. We're not necessarily always too sensitive as kids, but we are extra sensitive. I feel like the episode got that across pretty well. They even portray some of the adults not being sensitive enough, possibly also because of their age, they're just used to seeing this. Like how Sharon's mum obviously grew up with her dad and probably saw him talking like this a lot. Something else they were really real for is portraying a relationship like Maria's and Cloud's like this, especially a teenage one.
Sure, but you hardly ever wear dresses. Cloud says he likes them. So, you look great in pants. Yeah, but he's so sweet and generous with me. Doing this one thing isn't a big deal.
This isn't exclusive to teens, but anyone who's vulnerable is more prone to treating romance like a precious commodity to be protected at all costs. Every negative of Cloud and so-so boyfriends like him seems really small compared to the enormity of ending a relationship.
Yeah, that part was nice, but for me, there was more of the bad stuff than the good.
You don't want to be dramatic. And with all the ugly arguing going on around Sharon allegedly not liking Cloud for his race,
Black like you own the place!
I can imagine that Maria would be even less inclined to listen to any advice Sharon gives her, in case it makes her feel vindicated. It's honestly less realistic that she comes to her senses on this by the end of the episode. I was more stupid than this much later in life, but it's a 22-minute episode, it's not really a complaint. Anyway, that was Braceface's little attempt to tackle racism back in 2002. It was awkward in a good way, got across a fairly nuanced picture of how it feels to suddenly be faced with a huge weighty topic at 14, and then wrapped it up lightning fast because it didn't quite have the time to finish the story. I would say a two-part special might have done the topic some good in that regard, but this story feels like it doesn't have enough energy to last a whole 40-odd minutes, so maybe dragging it out wouldn't have worked anyhow. That's all I wanted to say about this episode. If you're still with me, thanks for sticking around, and leave a comment down below telling me your thoughts. I don't reply to everyone, but I promise you I read them all. Looking forward to seeing you next time. Sorry about my voice as well, by the way. I've got a bit of a cold. Love you guys, bye!